Something extraordinary is happening, and it's bigger than a TV show. The Chosen is stepping into the most sacred, painful, and powerful moment of its entire journey, and this time, the world isn't just watching. The fans are building it. Season 6 isn't arriving quietly. It's rising with millions of dollars, bold creative risks, and a promise to bring the resurrection story to cinema screens like never before. This isn't entertainment anymore. This is history unfolding together. The Chosen is stepping into its most powerful chapter yet, and Season 6 is shaping up to be more than just another season. It's becoming a global event. With millions of dollars raised directly by fans, the series is preparing to bring the resurrection story to cinema screens in a bold and unprecedented way. This season dives into the final days of Jesus' life, the silence after the cross, and the unbearable waiting that follows. Faith is tested, hope feels impossible, and every moment carries emotional weight. Instead of rushing toward the miracle, The Chosen allows the pain, doubt, and humanity of the story to fully unfold, making the resurrection more powerful than ever. From theatrical releases timed around meaningful dates to an emotional depth that surpasses previous seasons, Season 6 is redefining what faith-based storytelling can achieve. This isn't just something to watch, it's something to experience, reflect on, and share with others. Stay with us for deep dives, updates, and thoughtful discussions on The Chosen Season 6, and discover why this season may change everything. Season 6 of The Chosen marks the moment where the series crosses a line few shows ever reach. It stops being just a successful production and becomes a shared mission. What began as a crowd-funded experiment has now turned into one of the most ambitious, faith-based projects ever attempted. Fans from around the world didn't just support this season with words or views. They funded it with millions of dollars, driven by belief, trust, and emotional connection. That level of commitment doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a story touches something deep. At the heart of Season 6 is a decision that changes everything. The resurrection will not be confined to a living room screen. It is heading to cinemas, large screens, dark rooms, shared silence, shared tears. This choice alone reshapes how the story will be felt. Watching the resurrection in a theater is not passive. You are surrounded by people breathing the same air, feeling the same anticipation, holding the same questions in their hearts. It transforms the moment into something communal and unforgettable. The creators know exactly what they are carrying. This season focuses on the final days of Jesus' life, the weight of loss, the silence after the crucifixion, and the tension that hangs between despair and hope. Season 6 does not rush toward celebration. It lingers in uncertainty. It allows grief to breathe. The story slows down so the audience can truly feel what the followers felt: confusion, fear, regret, and shattered expectations. What makes this season even more powerful is the restraint. The show does not rely on spectacle alone. Instead, it builds suspense through quiet moments, through unanswered prayers, through the aching absence left behind. The resurrection is coming, but Season 6 understands that hope means nothing unless darkness is fully faced first. That choice requires courage, especially in faith-based storytelling, where it's tempting to soften the pain. Financially, the scale is unprecedented for this type of series. Millions of dollars raised directly from fans reflect something rare: trust. People are investing not just in production quality, but in intention. They believe the story will be treated with respect, depth, and honesty. That trust raises the stakes. Every creative choice now carries responsibility, not just to viewers, but to believers who feel personally connected to this narrative. Season 6 is not designed to be consumed quickly. It demands patience. It asks viewers to sit with discomfort, to reflect, to wrestle with questions that have echoed for centuries. Why suffering? Why silence? Why wait? These questions hang over every moment, building tension that doesn't explode. It presses inward. As the resurrection approaches, the atmosphere grows heavier, not lighter. Because before hope can rise, everything familiar must fall apart. And The Chosen is brave enough to let that collapse happen on screen. This is why Season 6 matters. This is why fans opened their wallets and their hearts. They are not just funding episodes. They are helping tell the most important part of the story, together. And this is only the beginning. Season 6 leans heavily into a place most stories are afraid to stay in, the silence after everything goes wrong. The crucifixion has already shattered the world of Jesus' followers, but what comes next is even more unsettling. There is no immediate comfort, no instant reassurance, just absence, just waiting. And that waiting becomes the emotional backbone of this season. The disciples are no longer bold voices of faith. They are broken people trying to understand how everything they believed in seems to have collapsed overnight. Fear replaces certainty, guilt replaces courage. Some blame themselves for running. Others replay their last moments with Jesus again and again, wondering if a single different choice could have changed history. The tension doesn't come from action. It comes from memory, regret, and unanswered questions. This is where The Chosen shows its maturity as a series. Instead of rushing toward the miracle, it allows doubt to exist. It allows confusion to sit in the room. Faith is no longer loud declarations and confident steps. Faith becomes fragile, whispered, and uncertain. And that honesty is exactly what pulls the audience in. Because this isn't just their story. It mirrors the way real people struggle when hope seems delayed. Meanwhile, the world outside keeps moving. Roman authority stands firm. Religious leaders feel they have restored order. To them, the problem has been solved. But underneath that sense of victory is fear. They know something powerful has been silenced, and silence has a way of echoing. Every decision they made begins to feel heavier. Every lie spoken during the trial starts to haunt them. Power may have won, but peace has not followed. What makes this season especially suspenseful is the constant sense that something is coming, yet no one knows when. The audience knows the resurrection is part of the story, but the characters do not experience that certainty. For them, each passing hour stretches longer than the last. Hope feels dangerous. Believing again feels risky. And that emotional distance between what viewers know and what the characters feel creates a quiet, relentless tension. Mary's grief is especially devastating. Her pain is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, aching, and deeply human. She does not question who Jesus was. She questions how the world can continue without him. Her strength lies not in answers, but in endurance. She carries sorrow with dignity, and that makes her presence even more powerful. In many ways, she becomes the emotional anchor of the season. Peter's struggle cuts differently. His denial doesn't fade with time. It grows heavier. The absence of Jesus removes any chance for immediate forgiveness, and that weight crushes him. His silence speaks louder than words. Every memory becomes a wound. His journey in this season is not about redemption yet. It's about learning to sit with failure, and that restraint makes his arc feel painfully real. The brilliance of Season 6 lies in how it treats waiting as conflict. Nothing explodes, yet everything feels like it could. Every conversation feels unfinished. Every quiet moment feels loaded. The story trusts the audience enough to let discomfort breathe. It understands that true suspense doesn't always come from what happens, but from what hasn't happened yet. And hovering over all of this is the promise fans helped fund. The resurrection is coming to theaters. Everyone knows it, but the season refuses to cheapen that moment by rushing toward it. Instead, it earns it, minute by minute, emotion by emotion. The silence after the cross is not empty. It is filled with fear, longing, and the slow realization that faith is about believing even when nothing makes sense. As Season 6 moves forward, the emotional weight grows heavier, not lighter. The followers of Jesus are no longer united by purpose. They are scattered by fear. Each of them carries a different kind of pain, and that pain slowly begins to reshape who they are. What once felt like a divine mission now feels like a memory that might never return. The world around them feels colder. Streets that once echoed with miracles now feel ordinary again. Crowds that once listened with wonder have moved on. Life continues, but something essential is missing. That contrast is what makes this season so intense. The miracle worker is gone, yet the world refuses to stop. For the disciples, that reality is almost unbearable. Doubt begins to whisper where faith once shouted. Some begin to question whether they misunderstood everything. Others cling desperately to the words Jesus spoke, replaying them like riddles they can't solve. The promise of resurrection sounds distant, almost unrealistic. Believing in it feels like setting themselves up for another heartbreak. And so, hope becomes dangerous. What makes this part of the story so gripping is how human it feels. There are no perfect heroes here. There are only people trying to survive disappointment. The disciples argue, not because they hate each other, but because grief has made them fragile. Every conversation feels tense, as if one wrong word could break what little unity they have left. Outside their circle, the authorities believe they have ended a threat, but beneath their confidence is unease. They sense that the story is not truly finished. Rumors begin to spread, questions begin to rise, something subtle shifts in the atmosphere, and even those in power feel it. It's not fear of rebellion, it's fear of meaning. Because if Jesus' story continues, then everything they believed they controlled might collapse. The genius of The Chosen in Season 6 is its pacing. Instead of dramatic explosions, it builds suspense through emotional pressure. Every scene feels like it's standing on the edge of something unseen. The audience knows what is coming, but the characters do not. That gap between knowledge and experience creates a tension that never fully releases. Fans who helped fund this season are not just watching a story, they are emotionally invested in its outcome. They didn't just support production, they supported a vision that dares to slow down, to explore pain honestly, and to treat sacred moments with gravity. Their financial contribution becomes symbolic. It represents a collective desire to see this story told with depth, not shortcuts. As the resurrection approaches, the silence becomes almost unbearable. The disciples don't celebrate. They wait. They fear. They remember. And somewhere in the background, a question echoes louder with every passing moment. What if everything they lost is about to return? Season 6 doesn't answer that question yet. It lets it hang in the air, stretching the tension until it feels like time itself is holding its breath. And the closer the story gets to the resurrection, the more impossible hope begins to feel. By this point in Season 6, the story exists in a fragile space where faith and despair sit side by side. Nothing has improved. Nothing has been explained. And yet something subtle begins to shift. Not in the world, but inside the hearts of those who are still waiting. The tension no longer comes from fear alone. It comes from expectation that refuses to die. The disciples are exhausted. Grief has drained them. Waiting has worn them down. And still, they remain together. That alone feels significant. Even without answers, even without miracles, they stay. Not because they are confident, but because leaving would mean admitting that everything truly ended at the cross. Staying becomes an act of quiet resistance against hopelessness. Memories of Jesus begin to return in sharper detail. His words feel different now. What once sounded symbolic begins to feel intentional. Not clear, but purposeful. The idea of resurrection no longer feels like fantasy. It feels like something they are afraid to believe in, yet cannot let go of. Hope doesn't arrive suddenly. It creeps in slowly, dangerously, as if testing whether it's welcome. Outside their world, tension builds in silence. The authorities sense unrest without understanding why. Nothing has happened, yet everything feels unstable. The fear is not of rebellion, it's of the unknown. A sealed tomb was supposed to end the story. Instead, it has only deepened the mystery. Control feels weaker with every passing hour. What makes this section so powerful is its restraint. Season 6 refuses to announce the miracle before it happens. There is no dramatic buildup, no artificial excitement. Instead, there is stillness, a heavy stillness that presses down on every character and every moment. The audience feels it too. This is the calm that exists right before history changes forever. This is also where the significance of the theatrical release becomes undeniable. These moments, this waiting, this silence, are meant to be shared. In a cinema, silence is louder, stillness is heavier. You are aware of every breath around you. The resurrection isn't just approaching within the story, it's approaching within the audience. Fans who funded this season helped create space for this kind of storytelling. Space where faith isn't rushed, space where emotions are allowed to linger. space where the most important moment in Christian history is treated with patience and reverence. Their support makes this slow burn possible. As the season edges closer to its defining moment, the characters stand unknowingly at the threshold of everything changing. They don't celebrate, they don't prepare, they simply wait. And in that waiting, the weight of the resurrection becomes almost unbearable. Because once it happens, nothing will ever be the same again. Season 6 reaches its final stretch, carrying the weight of everything that came before it. The grief, the silence, the waiting. And then, without warning, the story moves from despair into something almost too powerful to process. The resurrection does not arrive as spectacle alone. It arrives as release. A release from fear, from guilt, from the unbearable feeling that death had the final word. When hope finally breaks through, it feels earned. Every tear, every doubt, every moment of silence now finds its purpose. The disciples do not transform instantly into fearless believers. Their joy is mixed with disbelief. Wonder clashes with fear. And that emotional honesty is what makes the moment unforgettable. Faith does not erase pain. It redeems it. This is where the decision to bring the resurrection to cinemas reaches its full meaning. Watching this moment in a theater is not about scale alone. It's about connection. Hundreds of people experiencing the same breathless silence, the same quiet gasp when hope becomes real again. The resurrection is no longer a distant story. It becomes a shared human experience. The impact ripples outward. Guilt loosens its grip. Shame begins to fall away. The fear that once controlled every decision is replaced by something stronger. Purpose returns, not as loud confidence, but as calm certainty. The disciples finally understand that the story did not end at the cross. It was transformed by it. What makes this season extraordinary is that it does not frame the resurrection as an ending. It presents it as a beginning of courage, a beginning of mission, a beginning of a faith that will challenge empires and reshape history. Season 6 closes not with answers to every question, but with a renewed sense of meaning. The fans who funded this season become part of that legacy. Their support helped bring one of the most sacred stories ever told into a space where it could be felt deeply and collectively. They didn't just fund a production, they helped create a moment. The Chosen has always aimed to humanize the divine. With Season 6, it does something even greater. It invites the world to sit in darkness together and then witness the light rise. This is not just a season finale, this is resurrection experienced.